Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Fit to Print from Flatout Games. Fit to Print is a Kickstarter game. I'll have a link to the project down below, and this is a prototype. Rules, components, all that stuff, completely subject to change and everything you see here and all of that. Fit to Print is a real-time point-scoring game. In the vein of other Flatout titles, this is about trying to optimize your score, utilizing a variety of, well, different things that are going to give you points in this game, and trying to do so better and faster, really faster in this case, than the other players. In the game, you're going to be going through 3 rounds. You're going to be going through Sunday, Saturday, and Friday, as you grab tiles from this board over here, look at them in real time, players grabbing from the central pile and deciding what tiles you want to add to your board based on a variety of criteria which we'll get into shortly. We're going to have the photos, we're going to have ads, and we're going to have actual articles. Those are the 3 types of tiles you have. Articles over here, photos over here, let's grab this over here, photos over here, and then ads over here. All 3 are which are important in different ways. Articles are going to be the bread and butter of your actual paper. A variety of things are going to score around them. And they're going to have happiness and unhappiness symbols on them, which are going to be something you have to take into account in the game. Photos are going to give you points for the various things around the photos, how well they match up to anything from happy, unhappy, to any of the other symbols in the game. And then ads are going to keep your paper alive. The player with the least ads at the end of the game is going to, well, lose. Whoever has the least ad revenue across 3 rounds of play, their paper did not fund quite as much as they needed to, and they are automatically eliminated from the running. So ads are an important part of the game in terms of staying in the game, but past that, they don't really help in any noticeable way. There are some modifications around this both in solo mode and in 2-player mode, but other than that, ads are a big part of the game that you want to be mindful of. Past that, you're going to be continuing to grab tiles from this board over here, grabbing tiles as you go, until eventually you are ready to just say that, hey, you know what, we're ready to go to print over here. I'm going to grab a bunch of tiles over here, I'm going to put this one back, I'm going to ignore that one, this one I'm going to ignore, this one I'm going to go ahead and grab, that one, ooh, that's a good solid ad over there, we'll take that, this one, ooh, I don't know if I want that, nope, no, we're going to leave that over there, this one we'll grab, and then I'm going to say, I'm good to go, I'm ready to start the process of actually laying out my type. You're going to be adding various articles, photos, and ads to your board over here from this pile as you go through it face down, and eventually starting to add it to your actual board, which is going to look like this. You're going to start by grabbing your centerpiece over here. Everyone's going to have their own individual centerpiece over here that you have to add, putting it somewhere on the spot. Now on Friday, and I think I did the order over here of this wrong. I can't believe I messed up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as far as the generic order of these, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But on Friday, you're going to have this area over here. On Saturday, you're going to have this area over here. And on Sunday, you're going to flip to the other side where you have the largest area. So the game's going to escalate as you go through it. But in the case of Friday, we're going to add our centerpiece somewhere on that star, however we want to do it. I think I'll go ahead and put it in the corner over there. This is going to give us a point for each pair of happy and sad symbol articles above the fold. Above the fold being over here, which is going to be a little hard to actually fit everything in. Let's see what we can do over there. So we're going to go ahead and add this one over here and put this down over here. Let's say if we do that like that. And this is the part where we're all trying to do this simultaneously. And you need to be mindful that articles cannot be next to articles, ads cannot be next to ad, and photos cannot be next to photos. So you're trying to figure out the best way to actually make the pattern of everything work as you go through this, which is going to be harder than you sometimes think as you go through the game. So I'm trying to get this above the fold over there. That's going to be 2 points over there because of the ads over there. From there, we're going to go ahead and try to put these down. This one's going to give us a point for every pink article it touches, so we're going to go ahead and put that down there. This paper over here gives us a point for every pink or blue article it's touching, which means we're going to get 2 points for that photo. This ad is going to help keep our paper running. This one over here is going to keep that going. Then we're going to toss this over here. This is going to be for every unhappy symbol, which means we'll get that over there. And unfortunately, we're doing a pretty decent job, except for one small problem, which is we have this one remaining tile that we can't fit. So this is basically what's going to happen over here. You're going to go through that. You're going to try to do this all before the timer runs out. And you could adjust the timer as far as how much time players have. But you're also going to grab these as you go, the 1, 2, and 3 for finishing earlier. And then you're going to check to see if everything makes sense. You can see no articles touch one another, no ads touch one another, and no photos touch one another. And this is the part where we're going to score to see how well we did. So the starting baseline is you want to compare your happiness and unhappiness symbols and see if you're in balance. So in our case, our paper has 4 unhappy symbols and 4 happy symbols. That's going to make sure that we're in balance so we don't lose points there. You would lose points for any degree of imbalance you have on the paper. Then you want to give points for your centerpiece, how that scores. It's going to give us a point for every pair of these above our above the fold. Since this is above the fold, we have 2 and 2. That's going to be another 2 points. This photo over here is going to be worth 2 points because it has 2 pink articles next to it. This photo is going to be worth a point per unhappy symbol. That's going to be 2 points over here. And then these ads are going to give us 4 revenue as we go through the game. For this round, we're going to mark down 4 revenue from the ads. And that's basically what you're doing. You're going to do that. You're going to run through the second round as well. You're going to run through the third round as well. Each round expanding outwards, you're going to choose centerpieces based on the turn order of who finished first. You're going to go ahead and choose more centerpieces with different options as far as how they score for future rounds. And then there's a few other things you can mix up the experience before we get to the variants. For instance, you can have these as events over here, the stacks of events that are effectively other modifications to the scoring that'll be eligible or active in each round. So we have over here, spread out the ads. Ads must touch the edge of your paper. We have Saturday's memo. The player with the highest score from photos earns $3. We have Sunday's memo. The penalty for unplaced photos is doubled. Because one of the things you have to be mindful of is everything you don't place, you're going to pay a penalty for. If you took on a story, an ad, or a photo and you don't place it, you're going to lose points for that as well. And anything, we haven't talked about this part as well, but anything that's illegal, you simply turn face down. For example, if we have the situation over here and this photo and this article were reversed, anything that isn't actually legal and you have to adjust, you simply turn face down and it's going to go ahead and continue to count for filling up your paper, but it will not score for anything actually on it. You're also going to get a bonus or a penalty for the largest section of white space in your paper. So you want to try to fill that up as much as possible, or at least break it up as much as possible in the game. And then lastly, again, before variants, we have a set of characters you can add. The characters and the events are both optional. You can add them in as far as mixing up the experience, but these will give you different benefits. You may take one extra tile during the layout phase. You can begin the game with $3 in ad revenue. Your different characters will give you different small bonuses, and from there we get into the variants. Variants is going to be a solo variant, where you can play it solo as far as beating your own score. They give you a penalty for ads as opposed to complete losing because you're the only person. There's going to be a puzzle variant where you have a bunch of options as far as certain puzzles and patterns to try to figure out on your own. And then additionally, there's a family variant, which is a little less penalizing. It allows you to grab tiles and place them on your paper as you go, as opposed to having, well, two separate phases. You can grab and place as you go. And then lastly, there's a turn-based element for those who don't want the real-time element. The turn-based element goes through a few changes as far as laying out different stacks and types of tiles, giving you options as far as discarding tiles to rearrange. It keeps the same scoring concept of the game while completely eliminating the real-time and replacing it with some turn-based aspects to the experience. Which brings us to the review, starting off the bat with ease of play. Rulebook is incredibly easy to go through. Rules are incredibly easy to follow. All of that very easy. The game takes roughly 30 minutes to play or so. It's fairly quick moving, and it plays 1 to 6 players as well, by the way, and because of the real-time nature, especially if you are playing in real time, I imagine that would be just as fast no matter how many players you're playing with because of the real-time nature of the game. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking about the game, starting off the bat with what I like, which is the thematic integration of the mechanics and theme of this game. That real-time nature of trying to grab articles as fast as possible and then setting it to go to print so you can get your articles out first, and trying to be mindful that your stories and newspapers and all those things are as accurate as possible. It's thematically appropriate to a newspaper game, which you're trying to get everything going, rushing as fast as possible to get it all out there. You're going to sign that article, you're going to pay someone for that photo, and you're going to get that ad on board, and then you're going to try to drastically get it all into your paper as fast as possible. The whole real-time element works really well as far as the theme aspect of this game. And the escalation across 3 rounds works well as well. The fact that when you're playing the first round, you add this tiles over here, and then you eventually add this over here, that's a lot more space, and that escalation is very satisfying to actually build out your board with significantly more space across the 3 rounds. And then the events and the characters give you ways to mix up the experience once you dive into it. I recommend skipping them for your first game. The real-time nature of this game does mean that you already have enough to be mindful of, and you kind of need that first game to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to lose points. Okay, this is how many tiles to actually grab. Because one of the things you want to be mindful of is you don't have a sense of exactly how many tiles to grab until you've gone through that first game. And you're going to keep trying to grab tiles and then potentially have too many, and then potentially pull it back. You almost need a few plays under your belt before you have a good idea of how many tiles to grab each round, how much space your newspaper can actually fit, and then from there start adding in the characters and the events to mix up and give you more variety to the experience itself. And the centerpiece, speaking of variety, the centerpieces as well give you a decent amount of variety as far as different ways to lose and or gain points for different benefits. This one gives you 7 points by default, but it gives you -1 point for every white space area. That's going to be something you want to be taking into account as far as trying to efficiently optimize around your paper. This one gives you 2 points, and your mood penalty is reduced by up to 2 points. So you have all these different points over here, different tiles. They'll give you different reasons as far as how you're going to build things out. And in combinations with the centerpieces, the characters, and the events, it's going to give you a decent amount of variety to the same core puzzle of what you're trying to do, but differences game to game in between exactly how you try to do that, the exact changes you make to slight differences from, again, even just an example of your ads have to touch the edge of your paper. That's a big deal. And you'll have centerpieces as well that reward you for have all your photos touching the edge of the paper. You'll have all that aspect going on in the game. As far as what I don't like, the setup and tear down, and this is where it's really worth noting this is a prototype, the setup and tear down is annoying. The very nature of having this giant pile of tokens in the middle means that after every single game, you kind of have to take everything, dump it back in the middle, and then try to put it back in the bag or box in a way that keeps them all face down. Because of the nature of what's going on here, you have a giant stack of tiles, and they all need to be face down down when you start the game, which is a drop irritating. It's not a big deal, and maybe depending on the insert or however they actually have this package as a final thing, could make it easier. But right now, tossing them all into a bag is definitely not the best, and I'm curious what kind of insert could actually, like, again, the very nature of these tiles over here, because you have different sizes of them, I don't know exactly how they plan on dealing with this and storing it in the box in a way. Like, if you have to stack them all by type in the box, that's going to be just as much work and just as much annoyance, and if you're not stacking them by type, how is it going to keep them all face down? It's a problem I've encountered with the prototype. It may or may not be a problem in the final thing, but if that, like, taking a 30-minute game and spending 7 minutes just trying to get the tiles all face down in the right place is slightly annoying. Not the end of the world, but slightly annoying. As far as past that, the real-time element is also something that it's worth being mindful of. In general, real-time games have always felt a bit gimmicky to me, and they usually, not always, but they usually don't stay in my collection. I'm curious to see how Fit to Print will do over there, because I do like the real-time mode. One thing we haven't really talked about is the turn-based mode is not as fun for me. The turn-based mode feels... When it comes to the turn-based mode, I'd kind of rather just play the real-time elements of this game, or I'd rather play, if I'm not looking for real-time, I'd rather play another Flatout Games title that has a different scoring mechanism to it. I feel the real-time really does serve this game well, but at the same time, that does mean it's still a real-time game, and I found those don't last as long in my collection. I'm curious to see how this one does over time. I do like Flatout Games titles, and this one's no exception, and so I'm curious but wary when it comes to real-time in any games, including this one. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, it can take a few plays to figure out how many tiles is too many. I touched upon this already, but the very idea of grabbing tiles and putting them down on your board and trying to grab what you need and then trying to play that little game of, okay, great, is this the right amount of tiles to fit on this space? Well, you're going to have to figure that out, and you're going to have to figure that out for Friday, for Saturday, and for Sunday. It's going to take a few games and a few iterations before you figure out how much is too much and how little is going to leave you giant gaps of white space in your newspaper. Both those are a puzzle, and you're trying to kind of guess around that, and you don't have the time, energy, or even just, like, you shouldn't be counting them up, the little pieces. It's going to be a guessing game, and trying to arrange it might be a bit frustrating, both in terms of having too much, in terms of having too little, and even just in terms of the right distribution, so you can put it down all on your board to actually score points. So that's going to be a bit of a balance that will take several plays to get that into that flow as far as how the game goes. And then secondly, and this is kind of touching upon the same thing, because of that real-time aspect, and because it can take several plays to get a good feel for that, this does mean that this is the kind of game where someone who's played it 3-4 times could potentially dramatically outclass someone who's playing it for the first time. You need to be mindful of the fact that these kinds of games, especially real-time games, which kind of reward you mentally figuring out those balances, have a higher skill gap between new players and established players, and that's something that you want to be mindful of. As far as final thoughts on Fit to Print, overall, I really enjoyed this one. This, like many Flatout Games designs, gives me a fun puzzle of a game, and this one manages to stand out from the other designs just by the very nature of the real-time element. This one's a 4 out of 5 for me. I enjoy the mechanics, I enjoy the scoring, I enjoy the puzzle at play, I enjoy the variability from the centerpieces, the events, and the characters, and overall, I found this a lot of fun to continue to go through and try to figure out the best way to get your paper out and on time and to score points for it. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you're looking for a Flatout Games title that doesn't have real time, I'm going to recommend Cascadia, my favorite Flatout game so far, and one that I absolutely adore. Will give you lots of the scoring fun you'll get out of Fit to Print without a real-time element at play. And if you enjoy this real-time element and you're looking for other games that feel very similar, this does feel very reminiscent to Galaxy Truckers for me. Galaxy Truckers from CGE is a game of trying to grab tiles from a face-down pile over here in order to build your spaceship out before finding out it goes through space and falls apart. It kind of has a very similar feeling if you like the if you like the tile pulling aspect of trying to grab things from a pile and hope it all works out. Both those games will very much scratch the same itch. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.